What's going on, people? It's Joel Friday here, and this is Joel Friday TV. What's going on? It's another Tuesday. Amazing. Glad to be here. Thank you guys who are in the chat who just tuned in. Appreciate it. Thank you, James, for ending early. Thank you, Hassan, for running the board. Thank you, Nick, for helping me out. And thank you, Sean, for helping me out as well. Amazing. I think he's doing the phones. I could be mistaken, but he's here doing some stuff. Amazing. So, welcome to the show. Bienvenido. That's Spanish for welcome, right? Amazing. So, there's a bunch of things I want to cover today. I'm glad that we made it to another Tuesday. Praise the Lord. Shout out to James' last song he played. That Christian soundtrack. That thing went on for like 15 minutes. But it's all good. We're here. We're ready to go. Really quick, a few things before we get started. I want to start off with the topics we're going to cover today and then give you guys the call-in number. Really quick, I want to cover a few different things today. I hope that we get to it. We got some calls on the line already. I appreciate you guys calling in. Amazing. But a few topics we're going to get covered today. One, I want to talk about the 17-year-old that beat the teacher. I don't know if you guys heard about this story, but it's kind of been going viral, been going around. And I wanted to talk about it and just give my take on what I think about it and what I seen and what I realized and how people are reacting to it and blah, 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 right? So that's that. And then another thing I want to talk about is possibly the death penalty. I kind of want to go over that a little bit, just briefly, how it relates to the story of the teacher beating and stuff. And then maybe talking about solving some food problems, because food is a problem. Food's a problem. Food is my vice. I ain't gonna lie, but I'm overcoming. But we're going to talk about it, some things that I learned, something that's been helpful. And food is actually one of the biggest reasons why we have issues today. A lot of it has to do with food. Overweight people, emotional eating, escaping conflict. It all kind of boils down to the spirit. I mean, the spirit, obviously, but food has a lot to do with it. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of food that don't really, that aren't really conducive to, the betterment of your spirit. So we're going to get into that just a little bit, But, dang, I'm tempted to take this call first because it's here. And I don't want to get to all of them, but I want to maybe just take this one call briefly, really quick, and then I'll get into the story. Are you guys cool with that? You don't mind? You don't mind? All right, let me take this call really quick. Really quick, let me go to Richard out of North Carolina. I'm not quite sure which Richard this is or if I've spoke to him before or if I know him. But it seems like maybe I do. I don't know. Let's go to Richard. Richard from North Carolina, what's up? You're on with Joel Friday on Joel Friday TV.
Hey, man, I just want to say, he back and he black.
He back, he black. Right on, Richard. Have I spoke to you before, or you just you watch Jesse's show?
3 or 4 years ago when he was with Jesse still.
You said what?
When you were with Jesse still, maybe.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, right on. Well, I appreciate the call.
How's your little business doing?
It's going, man. It's going. It's moving along.
I follow you on Instagram.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
All right. Do you comment and like? Because you ain't a real one if you don't comment and like.
Yeah, I don't. I go by a video game character, so because I don't like showing my real name on it.
Oh, okay.
On anything, just to kind of at least have someone telling me, in case someone gets upset, they don't know my name.
Right, right. Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you following and showing love.
Yeah. Hey, I just wanted to ask you something real quick. Is this eventually going to get bigger, like Hake's show?
Maybe. We'll see what the Lord has in store. But right now, I'm having fun with doing the 1 hour, and my schedule is pretty crazy. So it's hard to kind of add new things, but you never know how things open up. I didn't think I was going to have this first hour, but it's here, so you never know.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say America loves you, Joel.
Oh, right on. I love America.
All right. You take care, brother.
All right. Appreciate it, Richard. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
All right. Amazing. That was nice. See, I'm glad I took the call. It was brief before we got into it. So let's get into this. Ooh, I want to get into this. You know what I mean? Because it's very interesting. So I'm browsing on Instagram. You know how you do. And this video pops up. Mind you, I'm not the guy that's like surfing the web for news or politics. It just doesn't, the politics doesn't really come natural for me. I like more like social issues, like relationships and life and stuff like that. And politics is just not my go-to. It doesn't stick as I'm scrolling. But some things just like are worth talking about because they have value. And I don't shy away from politics, but I'm just more like a distant cousin. You know what I mean? So, but as I'm scrolling, this video pops up of this young 17-year-old kid. Now, this 17-year-old kid attacks this teacher at a high school called Matanzas. No, that's wrong. Ooh, that's black. Matanzas High School. I think that's it. In Palm Coast, Florida. And the 17-year-old kid attacks his teacher for allegedly taking his Nintendo Switch, his little Game Boy. He took it away, and then he attacked the teacher for taking it away. Now, I have some clips that are showing the reaction and what exactly happened that I'm going to get into. But first, I want to give credit to the sources that I took the clips from. I did like a little mashup between clips from ABC News and Fox 35 Orlando. So they're like a couple of those clips mashed together to make what I'm going to show you in a second here. But yeah, so this 17-year-old attacks this teacher in Montezan High School in Palm Coast, Florida. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, this is not like no regular attack. I don't know if you guys heard it or seen it, but he really like is attacking this teacher. And it's so crazy. I'm thinking like there's something going on here. This is just not like a normal thing. This is like over the top, dramatic. So I'm just going to get into it and give my little take on it afterwards. But Hassan, if you could pull up the first one, not the B-roll, but the actual news story. And we'll go from there. Here it is.
Quite frankly, it was shocking.
Investigators say when a teacher's aide at Matanzas High School took a 17-year-old ESE student's video game away, he chased after her into the hallway and, according to the report, pushed the victim so hard it took her off her feet in the air 5 to 6 feet, knocking her unconscious.
This could have been homicide. When you push people down like that, they hit their head. You never know the outcome.
Kicking her, then getting on top of her and punched her in the body and back of the head approximately 15 times.
He's 6'7", 270 pounds, and he's in high school.
And she's like, knocked out.
That's a big kid.
He literally sent her flying through the air.
I don't know why that last clip, that last little part of that guy saying he literally sent her flying through the air was so funny to me. I just had to add it in. But the clip itself obviously is not funny. It's not comical. But it was so dramatic to me. Now, I played that clip and I put that in there because I wanted you guys to just stop for a second and just think to yourself, what was your first thought when you see that? What was your first thought when you see that 17-year-old boy attack that teacher in that way and wailing on her, even though she's knocked out unconscious, eyes ain't even awake. Eyes ain't even open. And he just wailing on her still. What was your first thought? Just think about that for a second. What was your first thought as you seen that? I'm going to ask Hassan really quick to get what he thinks his first thought was about what he just seen right there.
I mean, that video game's got to be incredible. I mean, I need to play that game.
we got to figure out what that game was.
I need to know what that game is, man. That is serious. That's something else.
Major.
That's major.
Right?
That's like, I don't know if you heard about the lady who drove into a Popeyes because they didn't give her a biscuit.
You got to try the biscuits. What's in the biscuit?
I understand her pain.
What was your first thought when you see, besides that, like,
Yeah.
when you see the kid, like, wailing on her?
No, I mean, it's honestly, like you said, it's not comical. It's really, it's just insane.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I mean, the one thing is, the tackle, but to be swinging like that nonstop. I mean, yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And thank you, Hassan, too, because I'm glad. I wanted to get another person's take on it because, and maybe you guys could tell me what you think in the comment section here, what you guys think, your first thought. But I know for people's first thought, human nature's first thought, everybody's first thought, maybe not everybody, right? But most people's first thought is, what's wrong with this kid? That's insane. He's a bad kid. Black kids are a mess. He is a thug. He got issues. He is evil. These are the first thoughts that come to the head that Satan whispers for human nature and when they're emotional. Because what it does is that when you watch this clip, you feel a certain way. Most people are going to feel a certain way because it's so dramatic and it's like, wow, this kid is wailing on this teacher and she's unconscious. Like, you kind of start to feel for the teacher. And then you're thinking, like, how could he just do that? Same thing with the school shooter. You see him go in there and start shooting up all these kids. Your first thought is like, wow, this guy's so evil. What's wrong with him? That's your first thought. Your second thought, human nature. Second thought of human nature is, poor lady. Bless her heart. I hope she's okay. Let's pray for her. And those things are natural things that come up, natural thoughts, right? Those are things that you're thinking like, how could I feel for her. She's in pain. I feel that. Those are the things that come naturally, right? And they're not that they're false. Those are just the first two thoughts that come, right? So I was thinking like, wow, what happens if we pull ourselves away from the situation and we could just really look at it from a logical sense or like from a naked eyes view without having these feelings or these feelings attached or these opinions attached to it, right? And then I started thinking like, as I'm watching this and thank God I seen it this way was, I was like, wow, the second thing people are going to think is that she's a victim. But then I was like, nobody's going to think, or not nobody, but most people are not going to think that he's also a victim. He's also a victim, right? Now, everybody wants to blame him and point the finger at him, and even the school shooter, but he's also a victim just as much as she is, right? And everybody's probably saying, no, that's not fair. She's an innocent woman, just got beat up. And maybe she was an innocent teacher that got beat up, right? But where does he get beat up? What's going on in his head? Who's beating him up? What's going on in his mind? Who's attacking his mind? Where's his sanity at? What's going on at home? What is he dealing with? Nobody looks at that. Instead, we point the finger because we just seen the person do the action, right? And once the action is done, automatically our minds go to judgment. And now we just demoralize. So, not demoralize, but we demonize. So what human nature does that we have to pay attention to is naturally we demonize, we judge, we point, right? Based off of what we see. And that's what Satan wants. And when we do that, we make the wrong decision. Because how do we solve a problem if we're looking at it as evil, right? We're looking at people as evil. We're just continuing the war, right? No peace. So that was the first thing I wanted to mention. Hassan, if you could play the B-roll as I go over this thing, is another thing that I noticed too as well is as I was watching this clip, I was also thinking like, what's going on with this kid? What's going on? And I'm glad that I was working here at Bond for almost 4 years and just getting Jesse's take, but also seeing these different news stories, realizing that there's always more to the story. And that was helpful to me because then I always question things like, well, what really happened? What's going on? What's wrong with this person? You see this kid, he's getting pulled off of the teacher, and there's obviously something wrong with this kid. Obviously something wrong. And I watched another news clip. You can cut back to me. I watched another news clip, and the news clip was him talking to the officers. He was saying, like, am I going to jail? I don't want to go to jail. You can clearly tell that something was wrong. Something was off with this kid. You can clearly see that he's not in his right mind. The way he's talking to the police officer, you could tell like he's like a troubled kid. And for me, I was like, we need to make sure that when we take these approaches, that we really step back and be logical about the situation. Because when I looked at, but before I get to that point, then I realized like, okay, well, let's look at the school shooter, right? The parents of the children who lost their kids to the school shooter, I can understand, and I have to understand that they just feel pain. They just feel hurt. They lost somebody they loved, especially if it's your child. I can understand that it's painful for them, but in your pain, it's hard to see clear. So of course they're gonna judge a school shooter. Of course they're gonna do whatever they can to make sure he gets the death penalty. That's not the case with the school shooter. I don't know how that trial is going, but I'm just saying, when you lose people, that pain that doesn't allow you to see clear, so you want to do whatever you can to make sure that person suffers. And I totally understand that. But the point that I want to make with this entire thing is that for us to find peace, whether it's losing somebody, whether it's just peace within ourselves, whether it's just being able to see clear, whatever, if we want to find peace, we got to let go of judgment completely. Because judgment that has no love. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't discern and see things that are wrong, and then people need to be punished by the law, like for sure, right? But the absence of judgment, which is understanding, is the way God approaches us. It's the way he sees us. Could you imagine everything that we did that was wrong if we were punished for it? If we were, if guilt was bestowed on us outside of ourselves, because we bestow guilt on ourselves. That's not of God's doing. That's of ourselves. That's Satan making us feel guilty to feel worse about ourselves, right? But could you imagine, like, God was like, I'm going to make him feel guilty for a week straight. We wouldn't last 2 days. Suicide. You know what I mean? Because with judgment, there's no peace. So for us to understand what's going on, we have to take the time to not just go with the emotions and what we're feeling, but just take the time to just realize maybe something else, maybe they're dealing with something. Maybe they got something else going on. Because what I did last Tuesday, what if somebody want to convict me for that? Because that wasn't, you know what I mean? But we don't look at that, even if it's on a small scale. What I did with that girl last Wednesday, and I'm not saying me. I know the chat's going to be like, you did? But what I did with that girl last Wednesday, and I didn't tell nobody, what if that was broadcasted to the world? You know what I mean? What if that was put on the news? Now everybody's looking at me like that guy. You know what I mean? But we don't look at that. We want to point the finger. So I just want to take the time to just at least point out that who knows what's deserved and who knows what's not. Only God knows. But just to think twice about your judgment and your conviction mentally upon another person, especially this young kid, 17 years old. He's 17. You know what I mean? He's a child still, you know? And he's responsible for his actions, but he's still a child. So it's like, take a time to have a little more understanding, even with the school shooter. I think there was a clip. I don't even know if this was the case, but I won't say it because I don't know if it's the case, and I don't want to put false stuff out there. But we just gotta have a little more compassion. So that's what I wanted to talk about when it came to that news story, was just that understanding. Have a little more understanding for the 17-year-old kid. Have a little more understanding for the murderer. Have a little more understanding for A, B, C, and D. Not that it shouldn't be taken to the court of law. Not that it shouldn't be punished. But just, if we want to get to a place to where I believe things change, is not by making it evident that the person is wrong, but helping them to recognize the actual issue, the actual conflict that's causing this, and then to work on that part. And then eventually, over time, they learn to forgive. Eventually, over time, they learn not to hate. Eventually, over time, they learn that, I shouldn't be angry at that. Those are my thoughts. I shouldn't be falling into my thoughts. My thoughts are of Satan. They're not of myself. If we're teaching that, then we don't have to say, you evil person, what's wrong with you? You're going straight to hell. You don't deserve to be here. And that feels so good to do. Trust me, I know. That feels so good to do. Just convict. Cuss grandma out. Cuss grandma out when grandma never mind. Let me get back to the topic. But if we teach it that way, then maybe we have some hope. Because right now it's a mess, y'all. It's a mess. That's just my take. That's just my opinion on it. Let the judgment go, because that don't do no good for nobody. Second thing is, really quick, the other day, I got in a fight with God. Me and God was fighting. Well, it was mostly me. And I want to say this because just using the example of lacking the understanding, is that sometimes even myself, and I'm still working on this too. I ain't even talking like I've overcome and I don't judge or nothing like that. I'm just seeing like what God has revealed to me through the light of what how understanding is helpful. And the other day, something happened, and I was just like, I felt it all festered up here, and I was just upset. And I was like, you know what, God, I don't understand this. This is my fight with God. I don't understand this. Like, I'm doing all that I can. I'm trying to do the right thing, and I'm trying to make this, and you're not doing this. I don't get it. I didn't get what I wanted or whatever the case was. I don't even remember what it was. But I was just like voicing my concern, voicing my issue. And I was upset. But the reason why I was upset is because I lacked the understanding of the bigger picture. I lacked the understanding. And also I lacked the peace in knowing that, trusting God that he has a plan for whatever's going on. Like, he's putting me through that to help me get out of it, or get out of something different, or to give me something better. But in those moments, we are so caught up in the feeling of it, or wanting to control something that doesn't go our way, or the expectation, or being let down, that we're like, why is this happening to me? I did this. I'm doing the right thing here. I'm trying. I'm working hard. Why is this happening to me? Same thing with people who lose their children to school shooter, who lost their child to school shooter. They're like, why is this happening to me? This happens because we lack understanding of the bigger picture, and we have no peace. Because we have no peace, we're not trusting God, and we still have judgment. So we have a painted picture in our mind of how it should go, what it's supposed to be, which is all of Satan. And that's what happened in that moment when I was fighting with God. Satan was like, look at him. He ain't blessing you. You've been doing all this. He's so hard. This is so tough. You're trying your hardest, and look, it still ain't enough. And even though I at times recognize it, there's still that feeling that rises up to where I still go with it. And I was fighting. I was like, I don't get it. You know what? I'm done. Just drama, right? And afterwards, the next day or two or whatever, I realized what he was doing, what God was doing, what the point is, the purpose of it was. And I'm like, wow, thank you. I'm grateful, right? But imagine if in that moment that I'm fighting with God cast me to hell. You know what I mean? Like God's judging me for being a human being and just having these feelings. You know what I mean? Like, what would we do? What would I do? What would I do if I just lost everything? Because God was just like, you know what, you're right now, I don't like your attitude, so I'm taking everything I gave you away. Have fun being on the streets. Good luck. Right? What would I do then? But he doesn't do that. He has compassion and he has understanding that I'm just wrestling with these feelings. I'm wrestling with these emotions. I'm wrestling with trying to walk in the spirit all the time. I'm wrestling with overcoming. And because of that, the result of that wrestling is going to be me fighting with God. It might just be beating up a teacher. It might just be shooting up a school. Now, those are three like totally different examples, right? But they all come from the same root. It's just conflict and not knowing how to deal with it and not knowing how to change it. So the point is that we just got to give people a little bit more room. You know what I mean? Because they lack understanding. They're not evil. You know what I mean? They may do evil. We do evil things, but people just need space to grow. People also are confused. They can't see. You know what I mean? I couldn't see in that moment to shut my mouth. I was just upset. And now, mind you, I know at this point that I'm not going to just overreact. I mean, I overreacted, but I'm not going to just take it to new limits, because I have an understanding that I know I'm tripping right now. Even though I was, fighting with God, I knew I was tripping. Like I knew in the moment, like, okay, I'm fighting with God, but I didn't care. I wanted to fight. But that's a part of having a relationship as well, is that he's not saying don't express that, but just be aware of it. So anyway, I don't want to get too off topic, but I hope that made sense, y'all. I also want to get into the death penalty, because it kind of just reminded me of this story with with that kid, and then also the school shooter. Because of course everybody wants the death penalty. I think people might want the death penalty on Derek Chauvin too. I'm pretty sure people want the death penalty on the guy who did the knee on the neck for George Floyd. I'm pretty sure some people want the death penalty for Derek Chauvin. And I'm not saying that the death penalty is wrong, right? I'm not saying there's not a place for the death penalty. I'm just saying I don't understand it, because it seems to me that it's playing God to me. It just seems like that to me. Like I said, I don't fully understand it, so I could be wrong, right? But it seems like playing God, because imagine if we were given a death penalty for cheating on our wives. Because, that's happening. Imagine if we were given a death penalty for watching porn. Oh, that's happening. And we even enjoy it while we're doing it. So are we evil? And should we get the death penalty? Should we get whipped? Should we get the head chopped off? Should we get the rocks thrown? Should we be put in jail? Should we be put in jail for cussing grandma out? Poor grandma. But should we be in jail for cussing grandma out? And that's what I always think of when I see, when I think about, for example, for myself, or when I feel myself wanting to judge or look down on somebody, and I do it, I'm quickly reminded. God quickly reminds me that I can be just like that. And sometimes he even put me in a situation, low key. Sometimes he allows me to do it myself for me to realize that, wow, I just judged this other person for doing it because I lack the understanding of what it is. Now I'm in it, and now I'm doing it, and now I understand why they did it. You know what I mean? But what if I got the death penalty? So that's just my whole thing about the death penalty, is that I don't know if that's just, but that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? You guys can call in. If you guys have any questions, or you want to give your take on this topic of the 17-year-old shooter, the 17-year-old kid that attacked the teacher at the high school in Palm Coast, Florida, you can give your take on it. Also, the school shooter or whatever we talked about. Call in at 888-775-3773, and we can get into it. I'm open. Amazing. So, side note, because I want to get to a couple more things. Death penalty for breaking the Sabbath. I'm dying. Public do it. Okay, I probably shouldn't be reading these because then it's too much dead time on air. But, boy, don't watch porn. I didn't say it was me. I just said. What is the death penalty now? I have no idea what the death penalty now. I rarely hear about the death penalty now. I don't know what the status is on that, but I don't know. Atticus says, it did not make sense, Joel. What didn't make sense? Justin said, blacks aren't evil? Lord. Come on, man. See no evil, hear no evil. Alpha 45 said, bro, Joel making excuses for school shooters. What? That's not what's happening here. That's not what's happening. They should be tried. There should be consequences to actions, but there also should be love extended. That's all I'm saying. A little bit of understanding can go a long way. Trust me. Trust me. Wrestling with mama. Anyways, I have a call here. I'm going to take it in a second. If he's on topic. I think he is. But we'll give it a second. I also want to talk a little bit about Drake. I know that's like a major change of subject. It had nothing to do with the school shooter, none of that stuff. So don't put the two together. But I want to talk a little bit about Drake, 'cause I've seen an interview with Drake, and I think it might be nice. And also I want to talk about solving your eating problems. I want to get into that too. But first, we're going to take this call from CJ. First-time caller out of Texas. CJ, what's going on? You're on the show, Joel Friday TV with Joel Friday.
Oh, I want to talk to you about the death penalty.
Right on, CJ. What do you got to say?
Yeah, as a Christian, so Numbers 15:32. Now, while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day. And those that found him gathering sticks brought him unto Moses and Aaron and all the congregation, and they put him under guard because it had been explained what should be done to him. Then the Lord God said to Moses, the man must surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones outside the camp. So as the Lord commanded Moses, all the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died.
And
so, according to, Bible and God, stoned to death for gathering firewood on the Sabbath.
This is in the Bible?
Yeah, Numbers 15:32 through 36.
So what's your take on it? You agree with the death penalty being necessary according to the Bible?
I think it should be for a lot more than what it's being used for now.
What do you mean? Like it should be used more? enforce more?
Oh, yeah, like attempted murder, death penalty. What that kid did, death penalty.
Death?
He attempted to. He like that's attempted murder. What he did on that lady.
Why should he be put to death?
Kicking somebody that's unconscious on the ground that was walking away with you, and I mean because you don't take somebody like that is exhibiting behavior that's going to kill somebody else someday. You should be put down. So you act like an animal, you get put down like an animal. We kill dogs for biting people. All right. And that's less injury than what that dude did to that lady. That person is never going to be a redeeming, functioning, contributing member of society. So either put him in the desert by himself till he dies of starvation because he can't function in society, or hang him from a tree.
Okay, well, that's your opinion. So fair enough. But I totally disagree, and I'm going to get into it. Are you married, CJ?
Nope.
No? Do you have a girlfriend?
No.
Do you plan to get married?
I've been married before.
Okay. Do you?
I'm old enough to be done with it.
Okay. So do you have any kids?
No, but I mean, like my mom cheated on my dad.
Well, before you got married, did you want to get married, or how did that happen? You don't have to tell me like the details, but were you like, you met somebody? And
I asked a girl if she'd marry me. She said yes.
Okay, fair enough.
We got married.
I don't want to get too into that. But my point is that, what if, before you got married, did you have sex?
Not after I became a Christian and before I got married.
Okay.
So I didn't have sex with my wife before we got married.
Okay, you didn't have sex with your wife before you got married. But before you got married in general, before you met your wife, did you have sex before?
Mm-hmm.
What if God was like, when you had sex the first time, what if God's like, because you had sex, I'm going to cast a spell over you. I'm going to cast a curse over you. You will never be able to meet another woman, or you'll never be able to have sex with another woman, or be in a relationship with another woman ever again. You lost your chance, buddy. Sorry.
What if God did that?
What if God did that?
What if God said you picked up some sticks and going to have everybody kill you?
Answer that though. How would you feel about that?
I'd feel like I screwed up and I got punished by God.
Right, but then would you have ever gotten married?
If I could never have sex again?
No, would you have ever gotten married if God did that? If God said, no, you can't even look at another woman again. You're not worthy.
I probably never would have got married.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know if a woman would marry me if I was never looking at her.
But that's the whole point, is that how would you feel if that was the case? Do you think that that's fair?
I would feel that I screwed up and that God punished me.
Exactly. But do you think that it was worthy enough for you to ever be
if I
forgiven?
wasn't living under God's law, I probably wouldn't understand it. But if I was living under God's law, then yeah, I'd understand why it happened. That's why I stopped doing it once I was once I was introduced to God's law.
But you do understand God's law, and because you understand God's law now, you also understand that didn't happen to you, that you weren't.
So you're telling me that kid doesn't understand the rule of law that says that what he's doing there is wrong.
But listen, what I'm saying is that you understand God's law, quote unquote. You say you understand it, and God didn't punish you in that way for acting or doing the wrong thing. And
I didn't know God's law then.
You said what?
I didn't know God's law then.
But you knew God's law when you got married, and you realized that, wow, I still get another chance. I get another chance to meet another person and get it right. I get another chance to meet this woman who I'm not having sex with, and I'm gonna marry her before and have sex with her afterward. You got another chance. So you got a chance. You were forgiven. Why shouldn't anybody else be?
That kid knew the secular law, and he knew that it was wrong under the law that he knew.
Say what?
That kid knew a law. Might not have been God's law. I mean, that kid knew a law. He knew that what he was doing was wrong under the law that he knew.
Right, and under the law that you knew that you were having sex with a random girl.
That wasn't wrong under the law that I knew then.
But how do you know that he knows the law? That it's wrong.
I don't know. I guess we'd give him a trial, and we'd say, did you know that this was wrong? Yeah. Okay. I don't know anybody that's 17 years old that doesn't know that kind of behavior is wrong. And I don't care if he knows if it's wrong or not. You don't just like, okay, this kid went and shot 13 people. Maybe he didn't know it's wrong. Whether you know it's wrong or not, whether it's punishment or not, whether you can call it punishment, you take a violent, out of control human being out of society. You don't have a right to be. You don't have the right for society to build a concrete box and staff it with people all day long and charge society hundreds of thousands of dollars. You don't have that right. If you cannot function in society, the only rights society has a right to eject you from society or kill you.
So then
because
we
don't have to build little special places for you. If you can't function without everybody being scared that you're going to flip out and kill somebody,
well, then we should have killed you.
Because somebody took away your Game Boy.
Well, then we should have killed you.
First of all, society did not have a threat of me killing everybody in society.
But society is on a decline because of sex out of wedlock.
See, this is where everybody disagrees with you and JP. People that hurt children and people that murder other people and people that do that is not on the same level as every other kind of sin. There is a special kind of sin for taking pleasure from hurting children, right? Is not the same as, oh, then you ignore all of your own sins.
Then let me tell you this, though. Because that's fair enough. That's fair enough. That's your opinion. But let me tell you this.
If you think all sin is equal, then you think people should have to go to prison for jaywalking.
You're not letting me talk. You're not letting me talk.
All right.
Do you know that there are some sins that lead up to the major sin? So do you think that if having sex out of wedlock didn't create conflict, or let's just say you meet a girl and you use her up, and now that the girl that you used up after you had sex with her and just
what does that mean to use a girl up?
So you have sex. Okay,
means.
so say you have a girl, you have sex with her, but then you realize you don't want her anymore, and then you just throw her to the dirt, right? Which is oftentimes what we do. Was oftentimes
you just stop calling her.
We just move right. You just stop calling her. So now let's just say she's heartbroken, right? And now she's heartbroken, and now she hates men. So then now that she hates men, she gets pregnant, right? I don't know. So say like she hates men, but she decides I still want to have sex with men. So then she gets pregnant, and then she has a child, and out of her hate for men, she treats that child horribly, right? And then that child grows up, and when he hits 17, he goes to his high school and he lashes out on the teacher because he's been lashed out on at home. You don't think that started from? You're very.
But you don't think.
But you don't think that? But listen,
no.
CJ,
I'll put you on hold. As soon as you said one thing led to another.
But are you there?
Yeah.
So this is what you're missing, though, is that you're trying to excuse yourself and convict others. How are you going to excuse yourself when one thing, like I said, one thing leads to another? You're no different than anybody. We're all no different. And I hope that you repent. I don't even like the word repent because that's so holy. I hope that you reflect on what you're saying, because it's easy.
When you broke up with her, it caused her to hate men. That's wrong.
How do I put him on hold? Okay. So CJ's arguing with me. I don't know where CJ grew up or what's on his mind, but I can't spend too much more time with CJ. But the point is that one thing leads to another. So you can think that you're not as bad as the other person, but you could be the reason why that person is got to that point. You know what I mean? And I don't look at it as one is sin. Yeah, one sin may cause more uproar, but I think it all comes from the same place, ego. The ego is the problem, right? And if you are still subject to your evil, you're subject to all things at any point. So I don't think that this person is worse off than another person because this person did a bigger sin, quote unquote sin. And CJ, Lord have mercy. Let me let him finish. CJ, you still there? CJ, you still there?
Yep.
Go ahead. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, and as soon as you said, so when you stopped calling her, that caused her to hate men. That very first step you took is wrong.
Exactly.
Nothing I caused her to do anything. She chose to hate men based on what was done to her.
No, what you did is that you sent her further into her.
And another person's choice how to react. You're acting like I caused all of this stuff with this action. No, everybody along that chain of event chose to do something, and they chose to act a certain way, and it was all choice. None of it was.
But see that's where we divide, is that it wasn't choice; it was by influence. So what you did is that, yeah, you didn't make her go hate men, but what you did is you pushed her further into the ego, which influenced her to have to go further into her thoughts and her mind and her emotions, because what you did is you exploited her ego. You exploited her spirit by doing what you did.
You could have had better influences that influenced her to not fall for that.
Right, but don't you think that it was because of your issues, your sin?
I don't think it's because of it. I think it's because she is influenced wrongly.
By you, and you were part of it. We are all part of it when we do that.
It's her ability to be influenced and not make correct decisions. It's not somebody else's fault because of what they did like that. It's your fault when you hurt somebody. It's not her choice. If I smash my fist into her face, it's not her choice to get injured. That's when I've taken choice away from her. Everything you're talking about is just people making bad decisions because they got their feelings hurt.
Right. So then if you did what
that's just lame.
Right. And people should be punished. And people should be punished for their actions.
I'll let you get on with your show, man. That's just somebody making a bad choice, and nobody did anything to them other than cause them to have some bad thinking and some bad thoughts and some bad choices. But that's not making anybody do anything.
All right.
I see your point, but I disagree. Have a good day.
Okay, CJ. Have a good one. Thanks. Call again. All right. He just wanted to fight because when I wanted to make my points, he didn't want me to make my points. But that's okay. That's his opinion. It's very what it is, but that's just his opinion. He thinks that everybody should be put to death. That's what it sounds like. He said you should be, what did he say? He said even if you beat somebody up, you should be the death penalty. Dang. I hope he ain't filling out an application to be a judge or anything like that, because that's a little extreme. Maybe I'm missing his point. I don't know. You guys can let me go. Maybe I was missing his point, but my point is that understanding what somebody else is going through comes from you understanding more of yourself. And yeah, say if I have sex at a wedlock, but the school shooter, I'll use the school shooter. Sorry, I don't want to keep beating that horse. But he shoots up a school, but I have sex, right? You know, they're like, well, yours is not so bad, but mine came from the same place, a lack of peace. And if I had peace, I wouldn't have had sex with that girl before marriage, right? If I had peace, I wouldn't have had sex. And if I wouldn't have had sex, maybe she wouldn't have been so emotional. Maybe she wouldn't have thought sex is okay. Maybe she wouldn't have hated men. Maybe she wouldn't eventually had a baby and she took that hate out on the child. And maybe that child one day didn't grow up to be a school shooter. Right? So to CJ's point, yes, it's not that you put the gun to somebody's head to make them do these things, but you certainly play a part. We all play a part, right? And we have to take responsibility that we play a part. And yeah, there's things that happen to me, and because it happened to me, it didn't make me want to go shoot up a school, right? But you don't know what switch. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. I don't know what switches that may go off in my head to where I just believe into this thought that's not true and decide to go do something. And the reason why I never say I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't be the school shooter, I wouldn't do that, is because it's not of myself that I could see clear enough not to do it. And the reason why I say that is because every time that I've judged or I've acted as if I'm never going to do that, this is just what happened to me in my personal experience, right? This may not happen to everybody, but in my personal experience, that when I said that would never happen to me, it happened to me. Just so that I can see that it's not of myself that has salvation, that makes the right move, that does the right thing. It's God's light guiding me guiding me. So if I step away away from God's light, then what's left? Human nature. And what is human nature? The ego. And what is the ego? Thoughts, emotions. And what happens from that? Then you go shoot up the school. Then you go have sex. Then you overeat. Then you do all these things. So for me, I say, let it be God. It's God. It's all God. It's not me. And the times that I try to take credit, Lord, forgive me. Because it's not of us. It's not of us that we're saved. It's not of us that we can do better. It's not. It's nothing. Take away the spirit and we're just like the rest of the world. I promise you. Take away the spirit, take away the insight, the light. We're just like the rest of the world. Everybody is exactly the same. Everybody is exactly the same. It's just Christians are blessed, not different. We're just blessed. You know what I mean? And that blessing can be taken away. You don't get to stand up on the podium like, I made it to heaven. Because as soon as you say, I made it to heaven, you're going to go right back down to hell. I guarantee. Because we don't get to boast in something that's not of us. We don't get to be proud of being good. Because we're not. And everybody knows that. We all know that we're not. We just like to pretend, and I speak for myself when I say this, we like to pretend because pretending feels better. I like to pretend that I'm saved and that I got it all together. And I like to show it off to other people that I got it all together. Because if I show it off and somebody believes it, then maybe I'll believe it. But if you really got it and you really that guy and you really of the light and of love and of God, you wouldn't even speak. You would never boast. You would never say anything because it's real. You don't have to prove nothing. What do you got to prove to somebody? You got to prove to them that you got it. Why? They'll see it by the way you walk. They'll see it in your action. So I disagree, CJ, but you had it right to you're entitled to your opinion. And I wish you well with it. And it don't do nothing bad or good for me that you feel that way. So it's all good. Call back again, CJ. We can have some more discussions. You know, maybe you made some good points that I missed. I don't know, but I just don't agree with not one thing you said at this point, as of now. But anyway, dang, I didn't get to talk about Drake. And I didn't talk about solving the eating problems. But I'm going to just try to do the eating thing really quick. Just because this may be helpful. Maybe it won't be. I don't know. But I realized that when we eat for fun. And when we eat for fun, we're eating out of fun, and it's to escape, right? And I don't want to ruin nobody's eating experience, but it shouldn't be an eating experience. And I'm only speaking to those that are trying to figure out, like, how do I stop eating so much? Because that's me. I had to really, like, check myself because I be eating. And over the years, my eating habits have changed. But sometimes I like to eat, right? So, but I realized this recently is that we're not supposed to have fun with your food. And when you watch TV and eat food, and when you go on your phone and you eat food, you're creating a memory, an experience, and you eat, you go unconscious, so then you end up eating too much. And now you're like, man, I can't wait to watch that movie and eat that pizza again, because that was a time. Now you're huge, or now you're unhealthy. So I realized that a lot of people have issues with overeating because they're so hungry. And then when they eat the portion that they plan to eat, they're like, man, that wasn't enough. I want more. So they keep eating. But I guarantee you, try this. I guarantee you, try this. Sit in silence with your food. No TV, no phone. Sit in silence to eat with your food, just you and food. That's it. I guarantee you're going to eat less. Just try it. Just try it. If you sit with just you and your food, no distraction, just you and the food, and you're conscious of you eating, I guarantee you'll eat less. Because you'll realize that there's no satisfaction in eating. There's zero satisfaction in eating. It's just food in front of you, and then you eat it, and then you get full. But the only reason why we have satisfaction is because we exploit it with the TV and then the phone, because we just want that moment. Trust me, I know. But sit in silence, guarantee you will not eat your full plate. And if you do the first time, just wait till the next time. I guarantee you, over time, you'll stop eating your full plate because you realize, dang, this is not that exciting. I'm bored. I need to watch TV. It's the unconsciousness that is satisfying your cravings, not the food. So sit in silence with your food and you'll eat less. You'll change your whole overeating issue just by eating in silence. So anyway, that's it. I got to end the show because I'm past the limit. I got to learn to be more disciplined with it. But it's hard. Now I understand what James was going through in the beginning. He used to go over the show, and I used to be like, dang, man, I'm hungry. If you don't hurry up. And Hassan's probably thinking the same thing, but Hassan might have a better attitude than me about it. I was low-key like, James, if you don't hurry up, boy. But I never tell him because I didn't want to be that guy. But I understand his pain now. But anyway, I hope that all makes sense. I'm enjoying doing these shows with you guys. I'm still learning how to do it and, be smooth and as like guided and like finesse it like Jesse and James does too. That I'm still learning how to do that. So forgive me for the stumbles and all that other stuff. But I'm trying. But I hope that all makes sense. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Amazing. Tune in every Tuesday, 11 to 12 p.m. Pacific time. Every Tuesday, we're starting off at 1 hour. Do me a favor. Smack that subscribe button and that like button. Smack it. Lay the smack down on the like and subscribe button. And tell your peoples to share and subscribe to the video so we can, what did I say last week? Send the message. No. Get the subscribers up to send the message out. You feel me? So do that. I appreciate y'all. Much love. I'll see you next week.